Welcome back, everyone, and hopefully the sound is perfect, crisp and clear. And behind me you see the code to Menti, so that you can also continue asking questions or giving us comments. You said in the beginning that you wanted more practical applications and examples, and we are going to give you 3 perspectives on digital twins, including applications that are at use at the moment. The first example is really exciting. We will see how models, simulation and visualization technology is used to develop the next generation of mines, a mine where the human beings are not not exposed to danger to the same extent as before. It's a really interesting area. The CTO of Combitech is here with us. Welcome, Johan Gunnarsson.
Thank you so much. I will talk about the next generation of digitized mine. And this is about a collaboration project together with LKAB, Epiroc, ABB, and also Combitech. Visualization is a very key component into this project, and I will start with something that is not at all a digital visualization, but still this is a visualization of the future vision of a project where we humans need to be able to express and visualize and to conform in our ideas of what we are aiming at. Because the digitized mine is about being able to engage the people, the workers, so it's very much a human-centric project. So we are creating in this project together with LKAB and the other partners the new world-class standard for mining. We are doing that by actually building a test mine, a real test mine, in parallel to a virtual mine. And the purpose is, of course, to utilize digitalization to make the vision of this new LKAB mining technology possible. And it's about creating possibilities for autonomous vehicles, and it's about better visualization of the operations, and also putting the people in center of the whole idea, creating new opportunities, creating other kind of work for the people involved. This is a control board. It looks like perhaps quite similar as a standard way, but the centerpiece, which is something that I can point there is something new. We are introducing a 3D perspective of the mine and the test mine. And this is also a 3D perspective of the mine. Remember that the blue areas here is representing the ore. And a mine is a huge and complex things. You can look at the different levels. A level can contain complete factories. It can be more or less like its own society underground. So this is a huge and complex situation, and the ability to be able to see and also follow what is happening in this very big complex situation is of a very crucial point here. So we can have a different view on this. I will go on, and the ability now is to create a digitized model of the mine where we put all the sensor data to be able to visualize where people are positioned, where new sensors are positioned, and so on. And we are also being able to, here you see a so-called street view, where you have different equipments, different connecting ventilation equipment and things like that. So this creates now, the job is to actually make the operators be aware of what is happening in the mine in a much more centralized and efficient way. Still, the job is, of course, how can we in real time engage the operator to actually take better decisions. As you know, there are enormous amount of data being produced, and how can we make it comfortable, make it safe to take decisions? So here I will just put up a completely another environment. Combitech being part of a Saab AB Industries, and one thing we are also engaging in creating an environment for pilots in a fighter aircraft. This is the cockpit from the Gripen E cockpit. It is an environment where you have quite a simplified digital panel just showing what is the essential information for the pilot in that particular moment. And the same know-how about how to actually engage a human in the right way is also then utilized as well in the digital mining project like this. So this is now leaving the digital mine and go on to the combination of different things. Being able to present data, we are doing that in, for instance, air traffic management. We are doing that in marine traffic management, and also now in mining operations. So there's a red thread through different perspectives of how to engage people in a better way. And just to mention also, there is a research project that is in the nearby here in the eastern of Sweden, Vara PS, where a lot of different universities and a lot of different PhD people are engaged. Also here from the visualization center, of course. Combitech is also taking part in that. And the idea here is that, okay, if there is a rescue mission to help someone that needs to be helped out in the sea, how can we combine different operators, different vehicles, different autonomous systems to make the rescue in the most efficient way? This creates enormous pressure on an operator to plan and go on with the actions needed, of course. So the same challenge is about being able to plan, being able to take decisions, being able to actually know what is going on. It's more or less the same problem in the mining industry as well as in other industries, and that's sort of how these things are connected. Okay, I will stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Johan. A question that I think is important here is when you see these environments, they're very engaging. I mean, they're very much. It looks like the truth. How are we going to know if we should trust the digital twin? I mean, that's also made up of data and assumption. And do you understand the question?
Yes, I mean the digital twin is for some of us. You can think about the digital twin as sort of a little bit too much close to the truth, and maybe you trust the digital twin more than the actual twin or the actual reality, and that is a problem with the term. So I like the Professor Innemann's term about a digital companion that is able to actually extend the
human capabilities
in much better way. I think that is a better approach, because the digital twin is the sum of the knowledge that we know, but it can also be also something that we can interpret also misunderstandings. So where is the truth actual?
And where are the risks here? And how should we address them?
The risk is that the digital twin, the visualization, needs to create trust, needs to be able to actually create a level of control that even though the circumstances are very hectic, you need to take fast decisions, the human actually would need to be extended with so much control. That's a core thing here, and So instead, it's very easy to get confused with these things as well.
So take us into one of the control rooms where you do training. If you're a mining engineer and you've been used to, traveling long distances, you showed the scale of a mine. Now you're in a control room where you have access to all kinds of screens and all kinds of information layers. When you train, what's most different in the way you work for us who haven't worked with a 3D visualization or a digital twin technology?
Well, you need to start from the viewpoint of the actual operators. What do they really gain? What for themselves are actually enhancing their ability to work? And there are a lot of skepticism, of course, and mining industry is a little bit, of course, traditional as well as any other industry. So there you actually need to, with dialogue, being able to take small steps and train them into, okay, understand how can they gain more knowledge about using this new fancy digital thing, because they knew the reality, but they need to connect. How can the digital extension actually gain something in the real world?
And human-centered design, does that also mean that you need to represent the real-life reality that the operator was comfortable and just used to, or what does it really mean? Does it mean that you have to be first-person control, or what do we mean when we talk about human-centered?
Two things. I think there needs to be a level of recognition that they can understand the former physical world. They need to recognize it, of course, but then you need to actually focus, okay, what are the tasks? What kind of decisions is needed to take place, and present the information just enough for doing that kind of action, because then it gets a real help. But it's a two-way coin. You cannot do only one way. You need to combine them, I think.
But do you do this incrementally? Like when you train, do you start with the vision that you're very comfortable and used to, and then you add information layers? Or just how do you train the operators?
First of all, this is a very long-term project, and it's just getting started. And the training of the actual operators is something that will be done in future, of course. But we'll see how. I think the approach and a very interesting job here is to actually, okay, how can the combine the traditional way of working with this technology, and that is really it's not about technology at all. It's about dialogue, behavior, culture. So it's a lot of truly human values that comes into play here, and that's, I think, is actually a lesson that
and trust.
And trust, but all the digital stuff actually makes it clear what is truly human in the end.
Because I could just see you, Johan, going, where do I point?
Yes.
And we are
I was
used,
funny, wasn't I?
We're used to interact with our screens.
Yes.
We've learned how to use touch.
Yes.
But we are also going to visually manage and visually navigate.
Yes.
We are talking about haptic systems. We're talking about navigation that we're not so used to today, where
Exactly.
your interaction with the world will be very different.
Very different.
In all areas.
And the lesson here was that I wasn't really trained to do this, right? And the training is, of course, very essential, because you need training in order to learn how to drive a bike, for instance. And these things are also new kind of bikes that you need to actually train.
Yeah.
So,
because my reflection is the more virtual it becomes, the technology becomes, the more tangible my experience as a human being has to be. Because I still need to feel that I can interact and control and be familiar with the environment that I'm interacting in, even if I experience through a virtual screen or a virtual or a VR environment.
yes, exactly. And I would say that training, the word gamification was mentioned before, being able to activate constantly activate. Maybe the human doesn't really need to know whether there is a game going on or if it's the reality, because you need to activate, because if you just let the machine do all the decision taking and just relax and then suddenly need to react on a certain unusual event, then you're not really prepared. So maybe the mixture of virtual reality and reality perhaps is intervened in this way.
And we need to experience a lot of this to be able to steer it.
Yes.
and produce the training and the human experience. Thank you so much, Johan.
And thank you for me to experience this. It was very fun.
Yeah, continue training.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So a few of you I know are working with city planning. Some of you are architects who are with us today. And we are going to have some examples from that industry, but we're also going to have examples from the aerospace industry. And how do we understand how to balance the human perspective, the technology perspective, for the benefit of society? Our next speaker is the manager of automation and human performance at LFV. Please help me in welcoming Billy Josefsson. Stage is yours.
Thank you, Beata, for a nice introduction. It's exactly what it's all about, to make human and technology to work together. So I have an operational background controlling aircraft, civil and military aircraft, for many, many years. And since '94, I've been into research, and a long part of the time I've been with Linköping University. And we're having a lot to tell you. And I like to say first that LFV, we are the air navigation service provider, so we are responsible for the safety and efficiency of the airspace. And we're also responsible for the development of the technical means to deal with that. And the tradition is quite long. Many of you may remember Håkan Lans. We started in the late 70s, so we have a tradition to be part of the technology development in the area. We have many European and international projects, and since 10 years we have a focused work together with Linköping University, where we work in many areas dealing with human-machine interaction, decision support tools and sensors, and airspace efficiency. Also, artificial intelligence is growing fast, and things like urban air mobility the same. And also we're going up to the space soon, I think. We have a long-term commitment together with Linköping University, and that is the key for our work. But here we go. The focus on this thing is one of the technology achievements we've been into the past, maybe the most recent from LFE side, the remote towers, which is about to control an airport from a remote site. Already 2005, we took a major step in the digitalization of the air traffic management, where we get rid of the pen and paper for the other information purposes. And 2015, we put this concept into operations. The air traffic control is a fairly new business. It's only 100 years old. And the towers has been kind of central to air traffic control. On every airport you see different towers and different shapes, and it's quite prestigious sometimes to have a high tower and a flashy tower. And some towers are abandoned, as you can see, and some towers are today converted into totally different things. Like to the bottom right, this is converted to a hotel room. Some are cafes and restaurants. Why is that? Someone said a couple of years ago, there is no need to build any new air traffic control towers. I'll show you. Okay, here we go. This is a quite flashy tower, as you can see, but actually it could be converted into a mast. And this information collected here by sensors, like cameras, IR, LIDAR, radar, and so on, are being transformed into an operational working position. You can see it like this. And you can connect many airports to one of these positions. In this case, we have 3 airports connected. It's not fully approved by the regulator, Transport Styrelsen, yet, but will be in the future. Now we're doing one by one, but there is already significant benefits of doing that and using the digitalized copy of an airport in a remote place. There are many benefits for doing this, and the digitized information, we can evaluate it, we collect it, we can manipulate it elsewhere, we can do it online, and we can do it offline. And we also can extrapolate what will happen. We're using the models and the data sets, put them into a machine learning scenario, and using also smart algorithm and technology to predict the future. And one thing is very important here is the human role. The human is responsible for the safety and overall performance, so the human must always be available. So we are very concerned about the workload and the information flow and how that is handled. And we also see that the digitalization also enable new opportunities for training and learning and verification of competence. So it's a significant difference if you look this side and this side. Right, we like to move on from this. Okay, we have a digitalized airport, we have the information. We like to move on and take a next step. So we send in researchers into the tower environment. We start collecting various kind of data like eye tracking, sensors, behaviors. How do you use the tools in the tower? When do you do what, and so on. We're also concerned about the physical state of the operator, and that is to be able to understand the workload and record if there are any variation, heart rate variations and so on, and if stress is building up. But also the fatigue, which is very pertinent in many areas, in the aviation, in other safety areas. We cannot allow fatigue to happen. That is our responsibility. That is also why the research is so important. Yes. So these are the people we are going to hire. And as you understand from what you just saw, the technology development that comes out from the research can be fantastic. We can do a lot of things. Just because we can do it, we don't need to do it, but we can do a lot. We can improve the situation, we improve the interaction models, the displays, and the decision support. We slowly raise the automation level. And when you expose this scenario with the new technology, higher level of automation, you have different reactions. Some people buy into it. Older people tends to be more skeptic. Young people like these tends to just do it. Just start to operate with it. So I see this as our future workforce. So we have to also create an attractive job, of course. And I believe we do that as we benefit from this digitalization and create this support, which I soon will show. Here we have an airport. I'm sitting in the tower, monitoring the airfield, and but I'm not alone. I have a digital companion or a digital assistant, or something that came out from our research on my side. And that digital assistant is monitoring the aircraft precisely. It can monitor it 24/7. It doesn't need to get away to go to the toilet or have a coffee or so. It just works and serves. And it monitors any deviation that happens. and it also can inform other actors on the status. This aircraft is now landing and so on. I'm still there, responsible for safety and overall performance, but my colleague here, my digital colleague, that is maybe the one who are responsible for the actual work or the performance of the work. So this is just an example from an airport and a tower environment, and we can apply, and we are applying this to other more complex situation, maybe with radar stuff and training situation. And we see it's very, very helpful to offload the human and to support the human. And why are we doing this? Yes, the technology is there, but as I said before, just because the technology is there, we don't need to do it, but we have to do it actually. We have to do it to meet the requirement from society on us. Basically, it's about decrease the costs. And it's very pertinent to airport and commercial airlines. They have to lower the cost all the time. And we know we had 3 or 4 pilots in aircraft. Now there is a program dealing with single pilot in the single aisles aircraft. To start with, it's led by Airbus, and the Boeing is also on it. And of course, we have to reflect their business model. That is also one of the drivers to do this. And airports becomes more and more automatic. And we can see the recent airport in Sälen, the Scandinavian Mountains airport. It's quite automatic. And the Singapore new terminal will be fantastic. You may talk to an avatar if you need to talk to someone. So these kind of things happening. And the overall challenge here is, of course, to make this communication and understanding transparent and understandable between the human and between the digital colleague and digital assistant. But also we have to recognize that the digital assistants will exchange information between each other. So there's also a challenge how to make that transparent to the actors involved. We're also running another project dealing actually with the thing, what will happen when a single pilot aircraft and the pilot is incapacitated. So that is on a European level, and it's a strong drive to push this. Right, so that is my last slide. We had a strategy for European 2035. More autonomous operations, drones will come in there, and that also drive the overall development. We also had an idea about investors and service-based companies that should come into our business. They are quite lukewarm now because there is no money in the business. It's just obligations to provide a service and keep up the infrastructure. And one important and interesting thing, which I may come back in 5 years, is the virtual centers, which also is in the line of this digitalization, where the whole airspace can be managed basically free from any boundaries and cross boundaries. We have recent trials going on where we play around with Ireland, Denmark, Sweden, and Paris. And we provide a data service and services from various places. So that will also happen in the near future. So the simple conclusion is that when we apply the digital twins and start to apply that properly, there is significant benefits to have. But there is also significant challenges. I mentioned some. Maybe the biggest challenge is to demonstrate that this is safe and this is predictable. We work on that also, so we will never give up on that one. So thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you. When you're showing us also the physical technology that the operators in the air towers will be equipped with, I'm thinking and you showed us the digital companion that can monitor the aircrafts. What will be the core competence of a really skilled air tower employee in the future if you can augment yourself and equip the capabilities with new technology? What is the core competence?
Really good question. It's a quite normal human we are looking for. In the past, we were looking for specific cognitive abilities. We tried to pinpoint that and train these people to very specific tasks. But thanks to the automation and this technology, we see that we can have a much wider span. Normal people trained for decision making, operating these tools, good information. It's
Good learners.
Good learners, new generation, there is good design. The design is fine. It's a significant difference also from the past, where they were mostly engineering designing. Now we're doing this together, and the designers are already well aware on how to design it properly from a human-machine interaction, human-computer interaction. So, like these people, students, and we like to have more people, we like to train them more efficiently, use automation to train them to deal with automation. And that
Will it be like playing a video game?
No, it will never be like playing a video game. It will be like managing a flow of information and understanding the parameters, understanding the key performance indicator, understanding the online versus the offline, and so on. There will be a collaboration between the people who run the system in the background also, of course. You have to understand more a systemic view.
What do we call this competence to be able to navigate between the virtual and the physical, the different information layers? It's both a visual competence to be able to read visuals, but it's a decision making that is more forward-looking than the old way of making decisions, right?
Yes.
What is this? What do we call this kind of capacity?
What we call it? I mean, visual decision making. We're talking about 3D or imagination, but also reaction time, to note things, note changes in the visual field.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Billy. You really made me think a lot about recruitment and talent and work environment and how it can be more engaging. Thank you so much for sharing these examples.
Thank you.
Am I correct going this way now to meet Anders, or am I going to stay here? Sorry for talking to the... I can stay here. Digital twin technology is about to become a reality for something as complex as whole cities and urban planning, and I know a lot of you in the audience are interested in this, and we will talk about how digital twins will revolutionize urban planning together with the director of the Digital Twin City Centres, which is a Vinnova Competence Centres at Chalmers. It's a pleasure to welcome Anders Logg. Hi, Anders.
Hello, hello.
Will you take over and give us some insights on the future of city planning, please?
Yes, I will do. So everything is fine now with the sound since I'm in a different location?
Yes, we hear you perfectly.
Okay. Thank you. So I will talk about some activities that we have at the Digital Twin Cities Center, or DTCC, which is a Vinnova Competence Center hosted by Chalmers in Gothenburg. And we are talking about the digital twins. That's the name of our center. So let's start with trying to define what a digital twin is, because that is at the heart of this activity. So what is a digital twin? Well, many people have different definitions of this. It comes from the manufacturing industry, where this has been a concept for about 20 years, but it's now the new buzzword when we talk about cities and so on. But it comes from the manufacturing industry, where you want to be able to have full control of a digital replica of your physical system. So when we talk about a city, what is then a digital twin? This is our definition of a digital twin. So I will not read this, but it emphasizes some of the key aspects of a digital twin for a city. And maybe the key word here is multi. So we talk about multi-scale, multi-purpose, multi-physics, and so on. So you have a digital twin, a digital model that should be able to serve multiple purposes. And what are those purposes? Well, it depends on your sort of where you start. What is your problem? Do you want to model rain? Do you want to plan a new city? Do you want to plan a city that minimizes segregation? Do you want to plan for decreasing air pollution? So these are multi is a keyword here. So we do multi-scale, we do multi-physics, design this digital twin, this digital replica for multiple purposes. And then you also want to have something that connects to 3D data and real-time sensor data. So maybe also another key aspect is that a digital twin is much more than a 3D model. Often you have a 3D model as the base, but then you need to connect to other data as well, in particular real-time sensor data. So in the ideal case, the digital twin is identical to the real city in all respects. I mean, you have everything there, the 3D data, you have the buildings, the roads, the trees, the park benches, the cars, the people walking around in the city. So it's identical, and you can use it for monitoring the city, for planning the city, and perhaps most importantly, model the city and make predictions. So you can use it to test the city before you build it, like you do when you build an airplane or a car. You build a digital airplane or a digital car before you build the actual car, and you build millions of those cars in the digital world, so you can test and choose the best possible car before you actually build it. And then what we want to do is to explore how can you do this for a city, so you can optimize the city and create the best possible digital city before you actually make the physical city. So this is our starting point, digital twins for cities. And let's mention a couple of things that we use this for, or want to use this digital twin for. Well, it's about modeling things that are important to the people living in the city. So it can be wind comfort, it can be air pollution, it can be, for example, now a current important topic is spreading of disease. It can also be planning the road network to minimize traffic congestion, improve the road network to improve the value of properties in the city and so on. So basically everything that you want to ask questions about, it's something that you can model based on data, based on models. So you want to build this digital twin in order to support intelligent decision making for the city. And when you talk about cities, you often hear the word smart city. So then what is a smart city? Well, I would say that a smart city is that what you get if you build a digital twin. So digital twin is something you need to get to the smart city. So this is the prerequisite for creating a smart city. So we are building these tools and exploring how these tools can be used to create smart cities. We are in a context now where this is happening around the world. So many cities, or maybe all major cities in the world, are building their digital twin or saying that they are building a digital twin. And this can range from perhaps basic 3D views of the city to very integrated large systems that integrate the whole sensor network in the city, integrate with the traffic lights, integrate with the air pollution monitoring stations, and so on. So there's a span here from the very basic to the very advanced, but everyone is now talking about building digital twins of their cities. And a prime example is, of course, the city of Gothenburg, who are now working on building their digital twin, which will be presented next year. So you can see here on the top here, on the top right, you see the a rendering of part of the city of Gothenburg. So they will be rendering the city of Gothenburg in 3D, make it possible to explore the city in 3D and connect to the base data of the city. So this is happening right now all around the world, and especially I would say in Gothenburg, where there's very large activity. And the city of Gothenburg are part of our center as one of our partners. We have about 30 partners in our center. They come from academia, so it's Chalmers, it's the Fraunhofer Chalmers Center, it's CIT in Gothenburg, it's also Sofia University in Bulgaria, an international academic partner. We have representatives from a number of Swedish municipalities. We also have, I would say, all the major consulting firms in the built environment, so architects and engineers who are working on their own technology and exploring how digital twins can be used in their business. So we are doing this together as a consortium of about 30 participants. Our work is divided into a number of research areas, and maybe this is too small to read here, but I will mention that we have research areas focusing on applications like digital construction. We have architecture, we have design, we have data management, we have modeling and simulation. So all of these research areas come together to study one aspect of digital twins for cities. So we do research both based on application and needs. Why do you want to create a digital twin for the city? We also have at the other end research areas where the technology itself is interesting. How do you create, what is the best data model for a digital twin of a city? How do you best transfer that data over the network? How would you design this data model to support high performance simulations? And how do you perform high performance simulations like wind simulation efficiently on a desktop computer? So it's a span here from mathematics, computer science, to engineering and architecture, and almost social science on the other end of the spectrum. So this is our research areas. And what I will do now is I will give some examples of what we're doing at the center, some preliminary results that we have created. We started in March this year, and we will be running for 5 years. So I will show some initial examples of current activities. One of the main activities is to create an open platform for digital twins. So this is an open source, open data platform that we are creating at the center together with our partners, which is free for everyone to use. And this will support the research that we do at the center. It will provide data to the research areas. It will take care of the data from research areas, make sure we have a flow of data between different research groups, between different applications. And also on the other end, at the final stage, also visualization and supporting interactive decision making. So this is one of the maybe the basis for many of the activities in the center, this open platform where we can share methods, where we can share data, where we can also showcase our methods and our data. So a few examples of what we're doing. One thing is to make sure we can generate data. So we want to generate data for 3D city modeling. Then we need to have the 3D model of the city. And this is not something static. It's something we need to generate automatically, and we need to generate it again and again and again as we get new and better data. So then there are many data sources. One that we're using is the data from Lantmäteriet. Then we use point clouds from aerial scans of Sweden, and we use property maps, and we combine them to create 3D models of cities or parts of cities or the whole of Sweden. So we can automatically generate the data that we need for simulation. We also do analysis of street networks, so you can create interactive spatial decision support tools that will support, you can test out different scenarios when you create a new city block, for example. You can see how will this affect measures of centrality in the city? How will this affect maybe the value of properties? Where is it best to place a new bridge? How will that affect the street network in the city as a whole? So this is one of the research areas.
Anders,
yes.
Anders, we need to stop there actually.
Okay. I had 10 minutes.
Yeah, a question to you is, how do we involve the public? What kind of visualization or tools do we need to develop to really have a broader discussion about urban development?
We need to, I mean, there's a technical question, and there is also a question of how you design such a tool. And the answer to both is that it needs to be simple. It needs to be accessible. So, for example, many of the things that we use are based on high-end software, high-end engineering softwares and high performance computers, but we need to make sure this is available to anyone, and that means you need to make it available in a web browser. So that's something that we are working on, creating a web interface to our applications that anyone can access very easily and browse the city in 3D.
Thank you so much, Anders. Looking forward to hearing more about the research projects. Thank you for joining us today. We'll continue with another important example, which is how you can address safety issues in the construction industry. And with us, we have Skanska, construction company Skanska, who together with Out There, a niche consultant, has developed a program for Skanska employees to handle, address and learn more about safety and how to work more proactively. Let's take a look.
Hej! Kan en digital tvilling vara baserad på beteendevetenskap och mjuka värden istället för koppling till exempel industri och maskiner? Vi frågade oss det och har tillsammans med Out Here jobbat fram ett koncept där vi jobbar med säkerhetsträning kopplat till beteendevetenskap inom Skanska. Tanja Sjöberg heter jag, är beteendevetare och project manager för vårt projekt Step into Safety. Med mig idag har jag Peder Sandqvist från Out Here. Över till dig, Peder.
Hej, hej. Peder Sandqvist som sagt. Jag arbetar på Out Here och vi är en VR- och AR-byrå som hjälper företag att använda sig av den här nya tekniken för att förändra och förbättra sättet de arbetar med olika saker på.
Så det vi tittade på inledningsvis var hur ser byggbranschen ut idag? Och som ni själva ser så är det ju inga muntra siffror. Vi har precis haft nyligen ett dödsfall till inom vår koncern och det här händer i byggbranschen hela tiden. Så det är den dödligaste branschen vi har. Ibland brukar jag fundera på vad skulle hända om vi säger att skolan eller polisen hade lika många dödsfall och lika stor risk att man faktiskt kommer hem från jobbet skadad eller inte kommer hem från jobbet alls. Skulle vi acceptera det då? För det här säger ändå någonting om hur man ser på skador i en bransch. Och här har man tidigare pratat mycket om machokultur, det har ni kanske hört vid något tillfälle. Och det kan ju vara en del av problemet, men jag tror att det finns väldigt mycket mer om vi ser det rent beteendemässigt. Så det här var vår bakgrund. För givetvis så vill vi ju inte att det ska se ut så här. Och även om vi är branschledande inom säkerhet i Skanska idag så händer ju just det här även hos oss, som sagt. Det finns många bra initiativ, bland annat ser ni att det finns ett initiativ som heter Håll nollan där flera aktörer inom byggbranschen har gått samman för att jobba aktivt för att få ner skador och riskbeteenden. Men vi frågade också vad är det vi gör då? För vi gör ju jättemycket bra saker. Vi har behörighetsutbildningar som alla våra medarbetare som jobbar inom produktion ska genomföra. Vi har en mängd e-learnings för att dels guida våra deltagare genom hur jobbar man med vissa moment, men också att de får en check på har jag fått med mig rätt saker rent informativt. Och sen så har vi också haft en satsning tidigare som heter IFE som bygger på att jobba med motivation hos medarbetare där man tittar mer på de mjuka värdena. Vad är viktigt för mig utöver jobbet? Vem är det jag vill komma hem till? Och det ser ju väldigt olika ut. En del har familj, en del har en katt, en del har intressen. Det är liksom, allt det här är ju väldigt varierat. Men att väcka de frågorna såg vi gjorde en markant skillnad i hur riskbeteendena existerade och hur de ändå gick ner där man började bry sig om varandra. Säkerhet blev inte längre chefens ansvar utan alla tog ansvar för att jobba på ett säkert sätt. Men sen så såg man också med tiden att det gick ner jättemycket inledningsvis. Problemet var att efter en stund så började man ta tillbaka de här riskbeteendena igen. Och då tittade vi på vad har vi för glapp, hur kommer det sig att man gör det? Och då tittade vi på att allt det material som används bygger på någon annans upplevelser. Även om du delar med dig av dina egna så är det ju så att, och du kan bli väldigt berörd av andras, så är det ju ändå så att för att komma åt känslominnet så är det tyvärr så krasst att vi människor måste uppleva själva. Och det fanns inte riktigt där och då. Så med bakgrund av den tragiska statistiken för mig som jobbar med utveckling och utbildning, det är att de traditionella utbildningarna så ser det faktiskt ut så här. Att det är faktiskt bara 1 av 6 personer som tillämpar sina nya kunskaper i vardagen och fortsätter att göra det över tid. 4 av 6 försöker, men de misslyckas ändå. Och 1 av 6, ni har säkert kanske till och med varit den där personen någon gång, förhoppningsvis. Inte ni kanske, men det finns andra som är så. Går dit och känner, jag har inte tid att sitta här, jag vill inte vara här och jag tycker det här är helt ointressant. Följaktligen så försöker du inte alls. Så det här gav ju oss då målsättningen att säkerställa att man tillämpar de här lärdomarna, eftersom det är det som krävs för att du ska få till en bestående beteendeförändring. Så vår inledande fråga var ju mer hur kan vi göra det här? Och det jag var inne på, det är just att de här bestående beteendeförändringarna, de måste utgå från min egen upplevelse och mina egna drivkrafter. Och där vet ni ju alla att vi funkar olika som människor, för vi har olika drivkrafter, olika personligheter. Så för att jag själv ska förstå att ett beteende kan vara ett problem och att jag behöver förändra det, då måste jag ju själv uppleva att det jag gör kan vara farligt. Det kan till exempel handla om att smsa i bilen. Vi har säkert många av oss sett de här YouTube-klippen som är fruktansvärda. Det sitter någon och tar upp telefonen, smsar under tiden de kör och sen säger det pang, krasch och sen flyger en liten barnsko. Och det där berör oss ju väldigt mycket och vi kan tänka både samma dag och kanske till och med en vecka efteråt att men usch, det där vill jag inte vara med om. Men samtidigt så kommer hjärnan att sålla bort allting, för när vi har mycket, det är också det, under press är då som de här olyckorna händer, framförallt i byggsektorn. Det är när vi inte längre tänker helt klart på grund av att vi har för mycket att göra. Och så funkar det i alla branscher och för alla människor att reptilhjärnan slår till under stress och press. Och då tänker vi inte längre på allt det här vi borde veta. För det är inte informationen det är fel på. Det lovar jag att det inte är hos oss och det är det säkert inte i andra branscher heller. Eller i andra delar av branschen. För man vet vad man ska göra. Och på samma sätt som ni vet att ni ska inte smsa när ni kör. Det är dumt, det är farligt. Det kan vara farligt för dig, det kan vara farligt för någon annan. Men när stressen slår till så hjälper hjärnan oss på ett märkligt sätt i det här fallet får man väl säga. Att säga till oss, nej men det är lugnt, du har gjort det här förut, så kör på. Därför att den helt enkelt inte klarar att processa hur mycket som helst och ta in hur mycket information som helst. Det är därför ni också ser människor som går sneddar över ett övergångsställe eller går omkring i svarta jackor och mörka kläder överhuvudtaget när det är mörkt ute utan reflex. Det är för att deras hjärnor vet att men du har gjort det här förut, det är lugnt, du grejar det här. Så därför behöver vi ju liksom på något sätt få människor att uppleva att det de gör kan vara en fara. Och då är ju vår förhoppning att man själv kommer att vilja förändra det här. Och framförallt, det gäller ju också att du tillämpar det här. Och tillämpning kräver motivation till att tillämpa och den motivationen ser vi kommer av att man helt enkelt får uppleva någonting. Och då var frågan, är det inte det här farligt då? Är det verkligen okej att vi gör så? Tänk om vi skrämmer någon? Tänk om det är någon som blir så rädd om de upplever de här riskmomenten att de inte vill jobba hos oss eller i byggbranschen längre. Och då tänker jag att ja, det är ju motsvarande som att köra halkbanan om man tar körkort. Det kanske finns någon förare eller blivande förare som blir så himla rädd att de aldrig vill vara ute på våra vägar. Och då tänker jag i så fall, bra för dem, bra för oss, bra för alla faktiskt. För då kanske vi har räddat ett liv. Så att det är väl så man får se på det. Och hittills så har vi i alla fall inte varit med om att det är någon som har blivit så skrämd. Men det är många som har fått en riktig tankeställare. Så fördelarna när vi började titta runt, liksom, hur kan man göra då? För vi var först inne på gamification i någon form. Men samma sak där, det blir inte riktigt att du kommer åt känslominnet, för det är det vi behöver trigga. Och vad är då känslominne för den som inte är beteendevetare? Jo, men det är till exempel om du någon gång har klämt handen i en dörr så vet du att det gör skitont rent ut sagt. Du behöver inte titta på den där dörrspringan nästa gång du går förbi och kalkylera, ska jag eller ska jag inte stoppa in handen här? För din hjärna kommer säga nej, ont, fara, gör inte det. Eller om du har lagt handen på en varm spisplatta. Så det är det känslominnet gör. Det hjälper oss att snabbt kalkylera, det här är ingen bra idé, gör så istället. För det var bättre, det var en mer framkomlig väg. Det var det vi ville åt. Och då började vi titta på att VR var ju ganska intressant. Och så tittade vi, även om man då inte hade kommit upp med digital tvilling som buzzword som det är idag, så var det ju faktiskt väldigt mycket det som vi tittade efter. Hur kan man ta moment ifrån det verkliga livet som är så nära det vi gör som möjligt, så att vi kan jobba med dem. Och VR som metod, det kommer Peder berätta mer om, det ger faktiskt en möjlighet att skapa den här känslan. För det är väldigt svårt att inte uppleva att man har varit precis där när man är i en VR-miljö. Och det ger oss också en fantastisk möjlighet att placera någon i en risksituation utan att faktiskt skada någon eller utsätta dem för en riktig fara. Och just det vi var ute efter, vi kan uppleva. Och sen också är att vi kan ju komma åt det känslominnet så att vi i branschen sen kan hjälpas åt att, genom att vi höjer nivån allmänt kring säkerhet, så ser vi att vi kan undvika farorna framöver.
Och då är frågan, hur gör man egentligen för att skapa den här typen av känslor och närvaro? Och det är någonting som vi har jobbat väldigt aktivt tillsammans med Skanska för att försöka lista ut. Och här kommer ni få se en liten film som är del av introt till Step Into Safety.
The construction industry is an exciting field to work in and offers many opportunities to contribute to developing strong and thriving communities. At the same time, working in construction involves inherent risks. Even though Skanska leads the construction industry in workplace safety policies, we have lost several colleagues globally over the past year. This poses the question: if we had the ability to experience risk scenarios in the workplace, would we interact with our surroundings the way we do today? Welcome to Step Into Safety, virtual reality training.
Och som ni kan se här så har vi kanske tagit en lite annorlunda ingång till hur vi faktiskt arbetar med VR som medie. Det vi är ute efter att skapa hos användaren är ju dels då en känsla av närvaro i den här tvillingvärlden. Men det är också väldigt viktigt för oss att skapa en miljö där användaren blir utsatt för olika känslor på olika sätt. Och vi tycker att det här introt är ett ganska bra sätt att visa hur vi arbetar med passiva åtgärder för att flytta användaren till den platsen. Någonting mer vi arbetar med är att ganska varsamt introducera användaren till den virtuella världen. Det kan vara ganska stark upplevelse att kliva in i en virtuell värld för första gången. Och för att göra den övergången så smidig som möjligt och göra så att det känns tryggt för användaren, så har vi valt att återskapa miljöer som användaren är van vid. Och i det här fallet så påbörjar man sin upplevelse i ett omklädningsrum. Och det är en ganska liten plats, det är ingen stor plats, så man har en trygg liten miljö att röra sig på. Och i den här miljön så får man några små uppgifter. Och det är för att man ska göra sig bekant med hur man rör sig i den här världen, hur man gör för att lyfta upp saker, hur man gör för att interagera med den där nya verkligheten som man plötsligt befinner sig i. Och här kommer ni se en liten film som visar att vi också har en spegel, så att man skapar en relation till sig själv inne i den här världen. För det är ganska viktigt för de kommande moment som vi utför att man känner sig som att man är ett med den här digitala tvillingvärlden som man befinner sig i. Nästa steg är givetvis att försöka återskapa verkligheten på ett sådant sätt att man glömmer bort att man är i en virtuell värld när man befinner sig i de olika upplevelserna. Och här har vi arbetat väldigt, väldigt tätt med personal inom produktion på Skanska. Vi är ju experter på att skapa virtuella miljöer, men vi har ju väldigt begränsad kunskap om hur en byggarbetsplats fungerar, hur den är uppbyggd, hur man rör sig, vad som ska finnas och inte finnas på platsen och så vidare. Så att under skapandet av Step into Safety så har vi haft ett team med produktionsmedarbetare som har arbetat med regionens hus i Göteborg och gjort studiebesök på plats, men framförallt så har de här medarbetarna varit på vårt kontor och hjälpt oss skapa den här digitala världen där man utsätts för de här olika riskmomenten. Någonting som är värt att prata om lite här är ju att vi har olika typer av moment som man utsätts för. Det vi ser här är vad vi kallar ett aktivt moment. Och det handlar ju om att det sker en händelse i världen som utsätter dig som användare för direkt fara. Här är det en lossning av ett betongblock som inte går riktigt som planerat. Och som ni ser så kommer användaren reagera instinktivt. Vad vi har mer är passiva upplevelser där det sker saker i världen runt omkring dig som du kanske inte riktigt har räknat med. Och det är viktigt att vi försöker efter upplevelsen fånga upp hur många sådana här passiva upplevelser som användaren har registrerat. För det är inte alltid du själv som är riskmomentet, utan du kan ju också undvika riskmoment genom att vara uppmärksam på andra moment och risker som finns i världen runt omkring dig. Vad har vi egentligen lärt oss på det här då? Någonting som vi upptäckte var att det var ett ganska gediget arbete att lista ut var vi ska dra gränsen. Hur mycket vågar vi skrämma personerna som är inne i den här världen? Hur mycket vågar vi utsätta dem för? Och det som var intressant var ju att vi var alltid mycket mer passiva och varsamma än Skanska och deras team med produktionsmedarbetare och beteendevetare. Så att vi satt ständigt i möten och skruvade upp de här gränserna. Vi gjorde mer. Vi utsatte användaren för farligare moment. Vilket kanske tyder på att vi som lekmän har väldigt liten förståelse för de risker som faktiskt finns i den här branschen. Vi upptäckte även att användarsäkerhet under upplevelsen är viktig. De här upplevelserna är så starka så att individer som befinner sig inne i dem kan slänga sig för att undvika att hamna under ett block eller bli påkörd av en buss eller vad det nu kan vara. Och det är väldigt viktigt att vi ser till att ha utrymme och säkra lokaler där VR-utbildningen pågår. För att det vore lite ironiskt om en VR-utbildning i säkerhet skulle göra så att användarna skadar sig genom att de slänger sig in i en vägg eller ett bord eller något liknande under upplevelsen. Då. Och något vi även tar med oss här är ju att det är väldigt viktigt att dra nytta av VR-mediets fördelar och skapa riktiga, djupa, interaktiva upplevelser och inte försöka ta några genvägar med 360-video eller något liknande, för då hade vi aldrig kunnat påverka beteenden på det sättet som vi ser med Step into Safety. Över till Tanja.
Tack. Så hur har det här gått då? Det finns ju jättemycket vi kan prata om som ni förstår, och ni är hemskt välkomna att höra av er om ni är nyfikna på att veta mer. Men för att summera det så är det ju ändå så att det har gett en väldigt positiv inverkan. Så när vi har mätt så ser vi att de medarbetare som har kört Step into Safety säger 93% av användarna att de upplever en positiv eller mycket positiv inverkan på riskmedvetenheten. Sen har vi haft några som har varit neutrala, men absolut ingen som har varit negativ, så det är väldigt fina siffror. Och sen var det ju det här som jag nämnde inledningsvis, vad händer över tid? Jo, efter 6 månader så upplever 85% av dem fortfarande en positiv eller mycket positiv påverkan på riskmedvetenheten. Och då känner vi att vi ändå har nått vårt mål på något sätt. Det var ju dit vi ville. Och hur kan vi då ta det här vidare? För det här är ju ingen engångssatsning för vår del. Utan just nu så håller vi på att utveckla nya moment. Och även den här gången så jobbar vi väldigt tätt med våra kollegor inom produktionsverksamheten. För det skulle jag säga är väl det absolut viktigaste för att få det här rätt. Det är att involvera slutanvändaren väldigt tidigt. Det har varit det som har gett oss bäst framgång. Och såklart en väldigt bra partner, vilket vi är glada att vi har i Outhere. Så att som sagt, kombinationen mellan det här, det har ju gjorts på många håll. Liksom man har använt VR i beteendesammanhang och psykologin överhuvudtaget, även kring fobihantering, smärtlindring. Man har gjort det som mer en information kring säkerhetsbrister, men inte i syfte att förändra någonting, utan mer bara för att simulera olika risker. Så kombinationen här som vi har gjort har varit helt ny och det har varit väldigt spännande att vara en del av den resan. Jag är helt säker på att som digital tvilling så involverar beteenden betydligt mer, för det tror jag är väldigt mycket i framtiden. Speciellt nu när vi inte heller kan ses som vi gjorde tidigare. Så tack för oss får vi säga.
And thank you, Skanska, for taking us behind the scenes. I'd like to talk more to Peter Sandqvist, the co-founder and experience director of Outhere, who's been involved in the production of this training. Peter, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear
Hi. You emphasize the importance of having a human-centric perspective. And besides involving the end user, how do you ensure that perspective throughout the production and of applications and solutions?
I think it's quite important to look at the way we do things from that perspective in everything that we do. Everything that we do in the VR, AR, 3D data space involves very complex technology and requires a lot of skills and knowledge in that space, which means that it's easy to build a team that is mostly focusing on the technology, and it's easy to kind of forget the end user and how this is actually going to be used in reality. So for us, I think it's about how we create our team and the amount of diversity in terms of skills, etc. that we incorporate into the team. So I think
what kind of
important.
Peter, what kind of capabilities are really important to add to the team?
So in my view, I think of course art is very important. Having people with an artistic background that can have a different perspective on things, but also very diverse areas. And that's why I think it's so important to work with partners and bring a lot of people in when we create these things and hear comments and thoughts from all walks of life throughout.
Mm-hmm. In what areas do you see the most interesting opportunities for virtual twins going forward? What have you been thinking about?
Of course, we see safety training in different areas as a very important area, not only in the construction business, but there's so many areas where if we could find a way to reach people, could have a lot of impact. But of course, as you see, the work with twins, digital twin cities, etc., has the potential to have an enormous impact on so many areas. And then, of course, there's training in other areas such as medical, etc., where you can improve the way we do things. So I think basically the sky is the limit in terms of what can be done using these technologies.
Personally, I see learning as a really learning and training as the most important field, because this is an area where we know we have a great demand for upskilling and reskilling in society, and we need to learn on the job and in situations together with others in a safe and innovative way. So that's another area. Thank you so.
Yeah. Totally.
Thank you, Peter, and good luck. Hope to have you back and talk more about interesting examples in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. So guys, can you again go to menti.com to give us some feedback on what was most valuable today? You can have multiple entries, so you can actually you can do a few things, a few comments, give us a few comments here. I think this will be a word cloud. And I'll wait a little bit. I'll talk also about what's going to happen next. We're going to have a break. And then those of you who are interested in participating in the VR mingle, you just bring your VR headset, and we reunite at 12:45. These are things that it's really hard to explore on your own. I mean, it's very boring to be one person with a VR headset. And this is a great opportunity for those of you who are curious in what happens in the interaction. How do I navigate? Do I feel the proximity to other participants? As I talked to Billy about capabilities of understanding how to really read infographics and virtual representations, we need to practice. So this is a great example. It's also an opportunity to learn more. So thank you for your feedback. This is what you've been saying. You've been saying that some insights about the future and real examples and the different perspectives. Yes, I think this is an area where you actually benefit from showing and looking into examples from different areas, because the aspects of creating engaging solutions for the end users, of having a human-centered perspective, of understanding how to train and gradually introduce more and more virtual opportunities, and how to really work in a proactive planning kind of perspective rather than working backwards and with historical data and fixing things that have already occurred. It's such a shift in how we work and the way we organize, the way we see leadership, the way we see power, who has the power over information. Well, in these examples, no one does, because it's a shared experience. And I think that's very interesting going forward. And then the far-reaching examples and opportunities that Professor Innemann provided us with, where a digital twin could be like a digital companion. It could be the digital version of ourselves, where we actually go back and forth in time and understand how we learn, how we experience relationships, how we work, how we react to different things. I think that's so mind-blowing. And again, it's an area where you need to experience what it would be like working in that kind of environment. You cannot read about it, you cannot watch a film. So every time you see an opportunity, grab that to experience firsthand. And our VR Mingle at 12:45 is one such example. Okay, finally, can I also ask you if we would ask you this? What are you most curious about now? Go and give us some ideas of what's going on in your mind. What are you thinking about? Things that you want to learn more about. It's, for one thing, it's an opportunity for yourself to collect really where do I want to dig deeper. It's also a message to Visual Sweden to understand if we do more training events and events like this? What is it that you want to explore further? Let's see if we have some input there. Personally, I'm really curious about the way we collaborate when we actually have a real-time example and we're working in real time and we address issues that become sort of very real to all of us in the team. Yes, and you add that too, a collaboration in projects. I think that's the area where we need to understand, what does real-time leadership look like? What kind of enforcing capabilities do these systems have to be equipped with in order to understand what is a decision and what was the result? How do we understand the difference between what was and what is now? When we do experimentation, when we do all kinds of really, we work with the alteration of a real-time environment. What is that kind of explorative mindset and an explorative way of work doing with communication in the group? Open data, yes. How can open data be used to provide layers on existing 3D models and visual twins? And more best practices. Some of you are raising the issue of ethics. Like I asked one of our speakers, how do we know if the digital twin is a true replica of the world? Every time we start a project, we need to understand what are the data sources we're working with. Do they contain bias? Acceptance of VR. I think that's also an interesting one, because what we're seeing now is ways of working where we're leaving the linear kind of eyes reading text on a screen or on paper, going into the situation or the environment or that locker room at the construction site and experience firsthand, not second-hand representation of a situation or a crime scene, like Lena said. If you were you were to read about the scene, it would be a stack of papers this high. But if you are in the scene in a 3D representation, you are actually in the content itself. Yes. All different kinds of experiments, news from Visual Sweden. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for being with us today. This broadcast will be, or this program will be broadcasted on Visual Sweden's YouTube channel in a few days, or maybe even tomorrow. It will be up. Especially for those of you who had trouble with the sound in the beginning, you can watch the whole morning again, or you can share it with colleagues or people in your network that you think might be interested in the different sessions and in what our guests had to tell you. So that is all for now. Those of you who are participating in the VR Mingle, see you there at 1:15. Thank you for today.